The term Cockney has had several distinct geographical, social, and linguistic associations. Originally a pejorative applied to all city dwellers, it was eventually restricted to Londoners and particularly to the Bow Bell Cockneys, those born within earshot of Bow Bells, the Bells of St Mary-le-Bow in East London's Cheapside district. More recently, it is variously used to refer to those in London's East End, or to all working-class Londoners generally. Linguistically, Cockney English refers to the accent or dialect of English traditionally spoken by working-class Londoners. In recent years, many aspects of Cockney English have become part of general South East English speech, producing a variant known as Estuary English. Etymology. The earliest recorded use of the term is 1362 in Passus 6 of William Langland's Piers Plowman, where it is used to mean a small, misshapen egg, from Middle English cocken plus I. Concurrently, the mythical land of luxury Cockaigne appeared under a variety of spellings including Cockaigne, Cockney, and Cockney and became humorously associated with the English capital London. The present sense of Cockney comes from its use among rural Englishmen as a pejorative for effeminate town dwellers, from an earlier general sense of a Cockney as a child tenderly brought up, and, by extension, an effeminate fellow, or a milksop. This may have developed from the sources above or separately, alongside such terms as cock, and cocker, which both have the sense of to make a nestle cock, or darling of, to indulge or pamper. By 1600, this sense of Cockney was being particularly associated with the Bow Bells area. In 1617, the travel writer finds Morrison stated in his itinerary that Londoners, and all within the sound of Bow Bells, are in reproach called Cockneys. The same year, John Minshew included the term in this newly restricted sense in his dictionary Doctor in Linguas. The use of the term to describe all Londoners generally, however, survived into the 19th century before becoming restricted to the working class and their particular accent. The term is now used loosely to describe all East Londoners, although some distinguished the areas that were added to London in 1964. Area. The region in which Cockneys are thought to reside is not clearly defined. A common view is that in order to be a Cockney, one must have been born within earshot of the Bow Bells. However, the Church of St Mary-le-Bow was destroyed in 1666 by the Great Fire of London and rebuilt by Sir Christopher Wren. Although the bells were destroyed again in 1941 in the Blitz, they had fallen silent on June 13, 1940 as part of the British anti-invasion preparations of World War II. Before they were replaced in 1961, there was a period when, by the within earshot definition, no Bow Bell Cockneys could be born. The use of such a literal definition produces other problems, since the area around the church is no longer residential and the noise of the area makes it unlikely that many people would be born within earshot of the bells any longer. Although the Royal London Hospital, Guy's Hospital and St Thomas Hospital are within the defined area covered by the sound of the Bow Bells. The closest maternity units were the City of London Maternity Hospital, Finsbury Square, which was bombed out during the World War II Blitz, and St Bartholomew's Hospital, whose maternity department closed in the late 1980s. The East London Maternity Hospital in Stepney, which was 2.5 miles from St Mary-le-Bow, was in use from 1884 to 1968. There is a maternity unit still in use at the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel. Home births were very common until the late 1960s. A study was carried out by the city in 2000 to see how far the Bow Bells could be heard, and it was estimated that the bells would have been heard 6 miles to the east, 5 miles to the north, 3 miles to the south, and 4 miles to the west. According to the legend of Dick Whittington, the bells could once be heard from as far away as Highgate. The association with Cockney in the East End in the public imagination may be due to many people assuming that Bow Bells are to be found in the district of Bow, rather than the lesser-known St Mary-le-Bow Church. Thus, while all East Enders are Cockneys, not all Cockneys are East Enders. The traditional core districts of the East End are Bethnal Green, Whitechapel, Spitalfields, Stepney, Wapping, Limehouse, Poplar, Clerkenwell, Aldgate, Shoreditch, Millwall, Hackney, Hoxton, Bow and Mile End. The borough to the south of Waterloo, London and Tower Bridge were also considered Cockney before redevelopment all but extinguished the local working class areas, and now Bermondsey is the only Cockney area south of the River Thames, although Purley Kings and Queens can be found as far out as Peckham and Penge. The area north of the Thames gradually expanded to include East Ham, Stratford, West Ham and Plaistow as more land was built upon. The Becontry estate was built by the Corporation of London to house poor residents of London's East End on what was previously a rural area of Essex, and Peter Wright wrote that most of the residents identified as Cockneys rather than as Essex folk. Notable people. Migration and evolution. Recent linguistic research suggests that today, certain elements of Cockney English are declining in usage within the East End of London and the accent has migrated to outer London and the home counties. In London's East End, some traditional features of Cockney have been displaced by a Jamaican Creole-influenced variety popular among young Londoners, particularly, though far from exclusively, those of Afro-Caribbean descent. Nevertheless, the glottal stop, double negatives, and the vocalization of the dark L, along with some rhyming slang terms are still in common usage. An influential July 2010 report by Paul Kurzil, Professor of Sociolinguistics at Lancaster University, Multicultural London English, The Emergence, Acquisition and Diffusion of a New Variety, predicted that the Cockney accent will disappear from London streets within 30 years. The study, funded by the Economic and Social Research Council, said the accent, which has been around for more than 500 years, is being replaced in London by a new hybrid language. Cockney in the East End is now transforming itself into multicultural London English, a new, melting pot mixture of all those people living here who learned English as a second language, Professor Kurzil said. Conversely, migration of Cockney speakers has led to migration of the dialect. In Essex, planned towns that grew from post-war migration out of London often have a strong Cockney influence on local speech. However, this is, except where least mixed, difficult to discern because of common features. Linguistic historian and researcher of early dialects Alexander John Ellis in 1890 stated that Cockney developed owing to the influence of Essex dialect on London speech. In recent years the dialect has moved out of inner-city London towards the outskirts of Greater London. Today Cockney-speaking areas include parts of Dagenham, Barking, Billericay, Brentwood, Romford, Shigwell, Loughton, Harlow, Tottenham, Enfield Lock, Brimstown, Basildon, Thurrock, Shashunt, Bexley, Sidcup, Walling, Iltham and Islington among others. Speech. Cockney speakers have a distinctive accent and dialect, and occasionally use rhyming slang. The Survey of English Dialects took a recording from a long-time resident of Hackney, and the BBC made another recording in 1999 which showed how the accent had changed. John Camden Houghton, in his Slang Dictionary of 1859, makes reference to their use of a peculiar slang language, when describing the costermongers of London's East End. In terms of other slang, there are also several borrowings from Yiddish, including kosher and shtum, as well as Romany, for example Wonga, and Kushti. A fake Cockney accent is sometimes called Mockney. Typical features. As with many accents of the United Kingdom, Cockney is non-rhotic. A final R is pronounced, e unregistered trademark or lowered, e, in Broad Cockney. As with all or nearly all non-rhotic accents, the paired lexical sets comma and letter, palm bath and start, thought and north force, are merged. Thus, the last syllable of words such as cheetah can be pronounced, e, as well in Broad Cockney. Broad is used in words such as bath, path, demand. This originated in London in the 16th–17th centuries and is also part of received pronunciation, T-glottalization, use of the glottal stop as an allophone of in various positions, including after a stressed syllable. Glottal stops also occur, albeit less frequently for and occasionally for mid-word consonants. For example, Richard Whiting spelt Hyde Park as high euro squared para euro squared. Like, lie, and light can be homophones. Clapham as, e cli iota e me copyright. May also be flapped into vocalically, for example utter, e 3/4 e. London/p, t. K/ are often aspirated in intervocalic and final environments, for example, upper, E8 degree E, utter, E8, rocker, E to the first degree E, up, 8 degree, out, E unregistered trademark ite cent, rock, E to the first degree, where a P is traditionally described as having the unaspirated variance. Also, in Broad Cockney at least, the degree of aspiration is typically greater than in a P, and may often also involve some degree of affrication. Affricatives may be encountered in initial, intervocalic, and final position. This feature results in Cockney being often mentioned in textbooks about Semitic languages while explaining how to pronounce the glottal stop. Th fronting can become f in any environment. Thin, mis maths can become v in any environment except word initially when it can be a degree I, d, l, e, a. Do they, eb unregistered trademark bother. Yod coalescence in words such as tune, te florin e degree e permel en, or reduce, e to the first e do e permel es. H dropping. Sivitson considers that h is to some extent a stylistic marker of emphasis in Cockney. Diphthong alterations, e unregistered trademark I to ei, b unregistered trademark a beat, a, bar bait, a, or even, a, in vigorous, dialectal Cockney. The second element may be reduced or absent, so that there are variants such as, e unregistered trademark e. This means that pairs such as laugh life, Barton biting may become homophones, Lear f, beer e copyright. But this neutralization is an optional, recoverable one, beer bite, a, eiea, ete florin e degree as, choice, a, e unregistered trademark e permil or a monophthongal, e permil e, perhaps with little lip rounding, e or, esh, b permil e boot. This diphthong typically starts in the area of the London, aie. The endpoint may be, ish, but more commonly it is rather opener and or lacking any lip rounding, thus being a kind of centralized, e. The broadest Cockney variant approaches, ish. There's also a variant that is used only by women, namely, rioia angstromie. In addition, there are two monophthongal pronunciations, rioie, as in no, now and, angstromie, which is used in non-prominent variants. K degree e coat, may be, a unregistered trademark or a monophthongal, a, te unregistered trademark n, town, and, a unregistered trademark have somewhat tenser onsets than in a p, e unregistered trademark, a unregistered trademark. Other vowel differences include, may be, e or, a, with the latter occurring before voiced consonants, particularly before, beak, back, beer ed, bad, may be, e unregistered trademark, e, or, a, before certain voiced consonants, particularly before, bd, bed, may be a somewhat less open, e, k degree e cot, has a fully back variant, qualitatively equivalent to cardinal 5, which Beacon claims characterizes vigorous, informal Cockney. Is on occasion somewhat fronted and or lightly rounded, giving Cockney variants such as, rioe, angstromie, a, ei or a quality like that of cardinal 4, a, delane te cent 8 degree jumped up, a or a closing diphthong of the type, oshio, when in non-final position, with the latter variants being more common in Broad Cockney, sushis sauce, loeshd lord, wooshie unregistered trademark water, a, ee, or a centering diphthong of the type, unregistered trademark we unregistered trademark when in final position, with the latter variants being more common in Broad Cockney. Thus, say unregistered trademark saw, la unregistered trademark law, we unregistered trademark war. The diphthong is retained before inflectional endings, so that board and pause can contrast with board, be unregistered trademark d, and pause, pay degree unregistered trademark z. Has a somewhat tenser onset than the cardinal, that is, ei unregistered trademark. Becomes something around, eschio, or even, currency in Broad Cockney before dark l. These variants are retained when the addition of a suffix turns the dark L clear. Thus a phonemic split has occurred in London English, exemplified by the minimal pair holy, e-sh-lee versus holy, e-he-lee. The development of L vocalization leads to further pairs such as sol-sol, sesh versus so-so, say, bow, bish versus bow, be, shoulder, florinized unregistered trademark versus odor, eed unregistered trademark, while associated vowel neutralizations may make dol a homophone of dole, compared do, de. All this reinforces the phonemic nature of the opposition and increases its functional load. It is now well established in all kinds of London-flavored accents, from Broad Cockney to Near RP. Vocalization of dark L, hence, e-me-o-e, for Millwall. The actual realization of a vocalized is influenced by surrounding vowels and it may be realized as u, ish, o, or e currency. It is also transcribed as a semi-vowel, w, by some linguists, for example, Coggle and Rose-Warne. Relatedly, there are many possible vowel neutralizations and absorptions in the context of a following dark L, or its vocalized version. These include, in Broad Cockney, and to some extent in general popular London speech, a vocalized is entirely absorbed by a preceding, for example, salt and salt become homophones, and likewise fort, pause, malden, water. Sometimes such pairs are kept apart, in more deliberate speech at least, by a kind of length difference, e-me-eshtni copyright Morden versus e-me-eshtni copyright Malden. A preceding is also fully absorbed into vocalized. The reflexes of earlier and earlier are thus phonetically similar or identical. Speakers are usually ready to treat them as the same phoneme. Thus awful can best be regarded as containing two occurrences of the same vowel. The difference between musical and music hall, in an H-dropping Broad Cockney, is thus nothing more than a matter of stress and perhaps syllable boundaries. With the remaining vowels a vocalized is not absorbed, but remains phonetically present as a back vocoid in such a way that and are kept distinct. The clearest and best established neutralizations are those of and. Thus real and real fall together in Cockney as e to the first e currency. While full and fool are foosh feshu and may rhyme with cruel, degree e to the first su. Before clear the neutralizations do not usually apply, thus, e say lee silly but, e say len, ceiling, e feshly fully but, e feshul len, fooling. In some broader types of Cockney, the neutralization of the four non-prevocalic may also involve, so that fall becomes homophonous with full and fool, feo. The other pre-neutralization which all investigators agree on is that of. Thus, sal and sail can be merged as, za currency, fail and foul as, far currency, and val, veil and vowel as, var currency. The typical pronunciation of railway is, ee to the first schwa. According to Syverson, and can also join in this neutralization. They may on the one hand neutralize with respect to one another, so that snarl and smell rhyme, both ending, a currency, and Child's Hill is in danger of being mistaken for Charles Hill. Or they may go further into a fivefold neutralization with the one just mentioned, so that pal, pale, foul, snarl and pal all end in, a currency. But these developments are evidently restricted to Broad Cockney, not being found in London speech in general. A neutralization discussed by Beacon and Bowyer, but ignored by Syverson, is that of. It leads to the possibility of dole and dull becoming homophonous as, dish or, die currency. Wells' impression is that the dole neutralization is rather widespread in London, but that involving dull less so. One further possible neutralization in the environment of a following non-prevocalic is that of and, so that well and whirl become homophonous as, wesh. Cockney has been occasionally described as replacing with. For example, three instead of three, fwasty instead of frosty. Peter Wright, a survey of English dialects field worker, concluded that this was not a universal feature of Cockneys but that it was more common to hear this in the London area than anywhere else in Britain. This description may also be a result of mishearing the labiodental r as, when it is still a distinct phoneme in Cockney. An unstressed final ow may be pronounced, e unregistered trademark. In Broad Cockney this can be lowered to, e. This is common to most traditional, Southern English dialects except for those in the West Country. Grammatical features, use of me instead of my, for example, at's me book you got air. Cannot be used when my is emphasized. For example, at's my book you got air. Use of ain't. Use of double negatives, for example I didn't see nothing. Most of the features mentioned above have, in recent years, partly spread into more general southeastern speech, giving the accent called Estuary English. An estuary speaker will use some but not all of the Cockney sounds. Frequent use of the phrase to get the hump, or have the hump, pronounced ave the ump, a primarily Cockney phrase that refers to being grumpy with someone else on account of feeling wronged by the other person. Attitudes towards the Cockney accent has long been looked down upon and thought of as inferior by many. In 1909 these attitudes even received an official recognition thanks to the report of the Conference on the Teaching of English in London Elementary Schools issued by the London County Council, where it is stated that the Cockney mode of speech, with its unpleasant twang, is a modern corruption without legitimate credentials, and is unworthy of being the speech of any person in the capital city of the empire. On the other hand, however, there started rising at the same time cries in defence of Cockneys, for example the following one: the London dialect is really, especially on the south side of the Thames, a perfectly legitimate and responsible child of the old Kentish tongue. The dialect of London north of the Thames has been shown to be one of the many varieties of the Midland or Mercian dialect, flavoured by the East Anglian variety of the same speech. Since then, the Cockney accent has been more accepted as an alternative form of the English language rather than an inferior one. In the 1950s the only accent to be heard on the BBC was a P, whereas nowadays many different accents, including Cockney or ones heavily influenced by it, can be heard on the BBC. In a survey of 2,000 people conducted by Coolbrands in autumn 2008, Cockney was voted equal fourth coolest accent in Britain with 7% of the votes, while the Queen's English was considered the coolest, with 20% of the votes. Brummy was voted least popular, receiving just 2%. Spread. Studies have indicated that the heavy use of Southeast English accents on television and radio may be the cause of the spread of Cockney English since the 1960s. Cockney is more and more influential and some claim that in the future many features of the accent may become standard. Scotland. Studies have indicated that working-class adolescents in areas such as Glasgow have begun to use certain aspects of Cockney and other Anglicisms in their speech, infiltrating the traditional Glasgow patter. For example, th fronting is commonly found, and typical Scottish features such as the post-vocalic are reduced. Research suggests the use of English speech characteristics is likely to be a result of the influence of London and South East England accents featuring heavily on television. However, such claims have been criticised. England, certain features of Cockney, th fronting, air vocalisation, t-glottalisation, and the fronting of the goat and goose vowels, have spread across the southeast of England and, to a lesser extent, to other areas of Britain. However, Clive Upton has noted that these features have occurred independently in some other dialects, such as th fronting in Yorkshire and l vocalisation in parts of Scotland. The term Estuary English has been used to describe London pronunciations that are slightly closer to a P than Cockney. The variety first came to public prominence in an article by David Rosewarne in the Times Educational Supplement in October 1984. Rosewarne argued that it may eventually replace received pronunciation in the southeast. The phonetician John C. Wells collected media references to Estuary English on a website. Writing in April 2013, Wells argued that research by Joanna Pszydlaka demolished the claim that E was a single entity sweeping the southeast. Rather, we have various sound changes emanating from working-class London speech, each spreading independently. See also, EastEnders, Estuary English, Languages of the United Kingdom, List of British regional nicknames, London slang, possessive me, Mockney, references. Bibliography, Crittenden, A. Jimson's Pronunciation of English. London, Arnold R. Ellis, Alexander J. English Dialects, Their Sounds and Homes. Hughes, Arthur. Trudgill, Peter. English Accents and Dialects, An Introduction to Social and Regional Varieties of British English. Baltimore, University Park Press. Matthews, William. Cockney, Past and Present, A Short History of the Dialect of London. Detroit, Gale Research Company. Mott, Brian, Traditional Cockney and Popular London Speech, Dialectologia, 9, 69 €94, ISNA 2013-2247. Rogalius Ski, Poria. British Accents, Cockney, RP, Estuary English. Angstrom cubed R. ISBN A978-83-272-3282-3. Syvertsen, Eva. Cockney Phonology. Oslo, University of Oslo. Wells, J.C. Accents of English 1, An Introduction. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. ISBN A0-521-29719-2. Wells, J.C. Accents of English 2, The British Isles. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. ISBN A0-521-24224. Wright, Peter. Cockney Dialect and Slang. London, B.T. Batsford Limited. External links, Grose's 1811 Dictionary, Woohoo Cockney Rhyming Slang Translator, Money Slang Expressions, Sounds Familiar? Listen to examples of London and other regional accents and dialects of the UK on the British Library's Sounds Familiar website.